So, 2023. Honestly, quite an amazing year for gaming in general, just to be honest. So many games that came out this year that I'll probably be talking about playing for years and years and years came out this year. And yet, the crazy part is there's even more games that came out that I haven't got around to playing yet. You know, I didn't get around to playing like Fire Emblem Engage or Super Mario Wonder, and those games look fantastic. And probably would have made the list if I got around to playing them. I just got a little too busy playing these games and just playing too much League of Legends, to be honest. But anyways, I just want to do a quick ranking of my biggest gaming experience this year. I know it's a little late, but this is something that's been on my mind because I have so many thoughts I want to share about these games. So thank you for tuning in, and hope you appreciate this list. I probably have the least amount to say about this game. I played the original back in 2021 on my Xbox One, had a really good time. I really enjoyed the combat and graphics, and I found the stories themselves were good, and I found myself pretty invested in every single one. My hopes for a sequel where they just add some nice quality of life changes to the game, such as being able to change party members whenever, or even change your leaders. And also just finding ways to connect the stories more together, you know. They're really separate, so it'd be great if the game found some better way to, you know, bring them all together with some sort of common villain or whatnot. But unfortunately, some of these did not come in the sequel, but the game itself feels more like a continuation of the first, right? Which is perfectly fine. I mean, I feel like it's really hard to make a sequel directly to Octopath Traveler. Like, I think if a sequel should always have been just another 8 new stories, 8 new world, which I'm very happy to see. First thing I will say is the graphics look a lot better, which is kind of crazy. It's how mind-blowing the whole HD 2D thing looked back in 2017, right? Like, we saw this thing and thought it was like the second coming of Christ. But how it looks is pretty much what I expect of a sequel to Octopath Traveler. You know, the lighting looks a little better, the shading looks better. I like how the nighttime just really pops out, especially like the moon. Oh my goodness, man. If I could remake like all these 2D games, like imagine like a Pokemon game. Like an old Pokemon game in this kind of graphic style. But anyways, for new things, I do enjoy the story span here a lot more than the first, to be honest. Every character is just so much more interesting and unique from any presented in the first game, right? I love how each character has a distinct trait about them that's just really well reflected in both the story and gameplay, right? Because I feel like the characters in the original are a lot more generic, like your generic fantasy characters, right? Like a fallen soldier or a quirky girl going on a little adventure kind of stuff. But here, I love how distinct each chapter feels. Like every single mission you go on feels so much more different than the others, which is just really what you want to see in this kind of game. And also, every story feels like it has equally high stakes, which is a great change from how weirdly different they all were in the first, where the stakes in each kind of story were just radically different. One was like complete fighting for like a revenge cause, while one was just like a simple adventure, you know? To be honest, I still have yet to finish the game, as I just recently rage quit a boss whose gimmick was just driving me up a wall. I generally love combat in this game, but this stupid boss's gimmick was just repeatedly just one-shotting your party, which just I could not stand for a while, and I'd take a break from. But I've heard fantastic things about the final act of the game, which poses wraps are there, so I'm very excited to go back to it. But otherwise, I would still highly recommend this game to anybody who's interested in, you know, RPGs, or just especially love this art style. I definitely would recommend it. Just understand that, you know, you're going to have to grind a little bit. I would say overall give this game about probably just like a 7 out of 10. So, Spider-Man 2. I should have to say, this is the most mixed I've felt in a game in a long time. For context, I played the original back on PS4 back in 2020 and had an amazing time. Every part of that game just hit on like all cylinders, I swear. The gameplay felt razor-tuned to both combat and swinging. Just moving in general was just so much fun. And top it all off, that story, man, just hit. Had some of the best highs I've experienced in gaming. That final act is something I will always remember. So when I heard about a sequel and finally got around to playing it, my expectations were honestly through the roof. And this game does reach that high, sort of. A quick thing before I get into this, I have not played Miles Morales game, and I don't really have any interest in doing so. I just don't care enough about Miles in this universe to really want to play through a whole game based on him. I'm more just like only invested in Peter, to be honest. But anyways, back to what we were talking about. First off, just felt amazing. Every single ability felt impactful, just great to use. I do miss the gadgets for stealth, but I feel like abilities were a decent replacement for it. I do agree to the sense that combat feels less Spider-Man-y than the last game, and more just like superhero, like generic superheroes, right? That's kind of a weird thing to say, but like,
I think you might be able to get it for those who have played it. Enemies do feel a lot stronger than last game, which is nice, but I found myself kind of getting irritated at certain points. Mostly due to, like, the parry just took me a long time to get used to. Especially after the first game, you just spam dodge over and over and over again. Now this game's like parry, telling you to parry. It's just like that muscle memory something you have to get used to. And going back to the enemies, I swear to God, especially during like the late game, these enemies are just like bullet sponges. So unless you use like a one-hit kill ability move, they just keep coming back and back and back and back, man. It just gets kind of irritating after all, but honestly, it's not the worst in the world. But it's also just crazy to me how they made the swinging even better than that before, right? Like, the swinging was already the best part of the original, which is mind-blowing to me. The web wings and those like minor physics changes they made make swinging just so much more fun, which is so crazy. The map is also a lot bigger, but it never really bothered me with how much fun I was having just zipping around. This with the insanely fast travel makes traversal just so seamless and just honestly perfect. Like, there were moments where I just found myself just swinging around and not really going towards anything, but just doing it for fun, man. Like, that's just how great it is here. Although, going back to like the story, I do wish the game did more to separate Miles and Peter, both in the story and gameplay. Once the symbiote powers do get unlocked, it feels kind of hard to more distinguish the two, as they now kind of like both guys' absurd power to those enemies, right? Like, originally they had like Peter had like the web things on his back, while Miles had electric powers, but then as you unlock their full arsenal, it's just like every move is kind of feels the same, other than like aesthetically, right? You have the big ground smash, you have the big uppercut, you have the big dash, right? And it's just, I wish they did more, like make them feel like separate characters rather than just different kinds of flavors, right? I guess that makes sense. Like, have like maybe Miles more specialized towards one aspect of combat, while Peter's more specialized towards one, right? Maybe Peter's more like has more long range abilities, right? Or while Miles is more up in your face, right? I just think like they really had to work on just separating them two, right? Because sometimes it doesn't really help with Miles' case when he already kind of feels like a Peter Parker light at times, just being honest. But anyways, I would definitely say the story overall was just alright. There's nothing that really moved me like the previous game, though, as I feel like there was some really cool theme stuff, such as Peter feeling like inadequate as Spider moving on. Like, I thought it was really great how highlighted that was in like in the intro, right? Where Peter's struggling, but Miles is able to like succeed thanks to his powers, and I definitely really enjoyed that. I just felt like there's so much more thematic depth that could have been done, but this game just kind of ignores just to rush to the next action piece. But speaking of those action set pieces, they were amazing though, with just so many memorable fights and moments throughout. My personal favorite has to be the Venom sequence, and almost everything to do with Symbiote Peter. Using his powers, especially in the cutscenes, how he acts, oh my gosh. Those power rights and powers were utilized just so well. Overall, I still really enjoyed this game, and I'm honestly really excited to jump into more side content and hopefully more future DLC. But just those lows just really hold this game back for me. And it just feels like it could have just been so much more if it would have just lived up to, if it kind of like had a better idea of what exactly it was trying to set out to be, you know? So I would give it overall maybe 8, 7 out of 10, depending on how I'm feeling that day. So I think of every game I played this year, this is definitely the weirdest one for me. Like, I feel confident saying that Tears of the Kingdom is objectively better than Breath of the Wild. I feel like it just improves on every aspect of original, which is crazy to think because of how polished and well done that original game is. I put at least 38 plus hours in this game on release, and most of that was spent before even starting the dungeons, to be honest. I got like lost in the underground and just loved exploring it. Loved seeing the revamped world. It's crazy how they took the old map and they just revamped it so much that you barely feels like the original. And not only did they have this big new underground, but the sky too. Oh my gosh, this is insane for a Switch game. I can just tell there's just so much love and passion poured into this game. And it makes sense why it took so long to come out after the reveal trailer, which is kind of funny to think about. But yet, I dropped it for Pikmin 4 when it came out, and just other things. And that's the biggest difference between this and Breath of the Wild that I can't really figure out. Like, when I first played Breath of the Wild, I was glued to that game. I could not stop playing it. It was just a magical experience. I feel like not just I, but a lot of people remember you know, that first time going on the plateau, the first time leaving it, you know. I think that's helped to have, you know, Breath of the Wild is this once in a generation experience that I will always remember. And making a sequel to that, just trying to recreate that magical feeling, is always going to be very, very tough. But I do plan on going back and beating this game as I work my way through my backlog. Because I really want to give Tears of the Kingdom love and attention. That game of this caliber, this love and attention, this 10 out of 10 really deserves. And maybe I'll get its own video someday like I did for Breath of the Wild. But at the end of the day, I do love this game and everything about it. And it's an easy 10 out of 10 experience to me. But it's just these weird questions I have in my head. They're really keeping it lower on the list for me and not my game of the year. It's still crazy to me how we actually got this game. Like, I feel like we've been waiting on this game specifically for like 10 years since the original Pikmin 3 back in 2013. And for years and years and years, I remember reading all these articles where Miyamoto said Pikmin 4 is doing great and it's just around the corner. And he's just been saying the same thing since 2014. But anyways, back to the game itself. It's just crazy how much better Pikmin gets with each entry, like in the series. Just how much it improved, how much variety it does. Except maybe not from Pikmin 1 to 2, but you know what I mean? From like that jump from like Pikmin 1 and 2 to 3 is just crazy. I mean, it'd be cool if like every game was exactly the same, just new areas, but little innovations each one of them makes is just so nice and amazing for a good experience. I also don't have too much to say when it comes to this game. It's a Pikmin game that just refines to an amazing degree. The exploration feels great, so do the Pikmin as usual. The new ice Pikmin are fun to use in puzzles, but I feel like they're kind of broken in combat. Like when you send a big horde at them, you just freeze them. Like, yeah, you just win pretty much. It kind of trivializes certain encounters too. Like, it's kind of crazy like how easy combat can be, because when you throw Ochi, the little dog, his little stun dash with the ice Pikmin, man, it just makes enemies kind of like a joke at times. But I mean, they're still definitely challenging bosses for sure, so it doesn't really take away from it completely. But I think my only real gripe with this one is kind of like a new control style, which is kind of be expected. Pikmin is just kind of like born to be used the Wiimote and nunchucks up, right? So always be difficult to move on from. And I'm pretty sure they didn't even attempt to replicate this with the gyro control. Seems like other Wii ports did. Like, you can still do, like, the pointer stuff in, like, Skyward Sword, for example, and it's a little off there, but it's still better than nothing, right, here. And, like, this new system is just all controller and no gyro, which is just kind of surprising they didn't really, like, try it all. It did get a little annoying, like, at the beginning, just losing that really good precision in the old games, but it's just, like, a really small aspect, and kind of, like, you kind of just play through it and get over after a while. It doesn't really take away that much from, like, this really good game that still feels really satisfying to play. I love the new story. I love the new spin on the old stuff. All this quality of life stuff with managing your Pikmin. The revamp of the dungeons from 2 is just so nice and such a well-loved thing here. I honestly just love everything to do with Ochi as well in this game, the little dog thing. The dog guy, he's so cute and he's so much fun to ride around on. And he just makes the experience just feel so much more fresh too. I was also surprised how invested I got into the story, seeing as it feels like a reboot of the series. And instead of this fascinating mystery with Olimar and Louie, it just left me smiling like after every cutscene, you know? But overall, this game is definitely a highlight of the year for me, and I just really implore people to check it out. I just hope it doesn't get drowned out by all the amazing games this year. It's a perfect game for new and old fans to get into. This for sure is my personal game of the year for 2023, and definitely the one I sunk the most hours into out of anything I played this year. I just want to tell a quick story and give some context to why I really feel this way. I've always been a fan of Street Fighter, but mostly when it comes to just looking at it, I was a fan who just barely played the game. It's kind of funny looking back. Growing up, I did play a little bit Ultra 4, but could never really figure out combos or special moves since I was just like a dumb 14-year-old. Like, for years and years, I could never do the Shoryuken, which is like a kind of like a Z on the control pad, and I just could not do it. I even tried doing Smash where they used to main Ryu and could not figure that stuff out. I eventually got too frustrated for and just lost it in my house at some point. And I remember back in the day when Street Fighter V came out, I was such a big fan, even though I never had any way to play it since I was a broke high school student whose main console was Wii U. Like, there was no way I was playing it. I would watch the trailers hundreds of times, just jam out some music in my free time. I sort of fell in love with everything Street Fighter related, except the gameplay, which is pretty funny looking back.
since buying a PS4 was a little too much for me back then, I instead resorted to watch a lot of videos and just streams of like the actual fighting or the tournaments. I just remember watching a lot of Maximilian Dude back then. And he's a lot of videos on the game at launch. I remember coming over from school and watch his Climb to Platinum with Ken, be really invested, or his Week of Alex series. I still tune into nowadays and definitely keep watching his Street Fighter 6 content. But anyways, back to the topic at hand. We're almost there, I swear. I finally bought a Street Fighter 5 in January this year on my old-ass PS4 with all the DLC, and I finally started the game after watching fantastic videos recommended to me by a guy named Hadokane. I'll definitely link the video below, but it's all about him doing his best in Street Fighter 5 as a brand new player. And one of the things he did was do all the combo trials for every character, and this is a big motivation for me to just get out there and boot up that game that night. I spent at least 50 hours in Street Fighter 5, pretty much just doing everything but the story and online mode. Just kind of crazy. I made it my mission, learned everything about the game, so I transferred that knowledge over Street Fighter 6 when I came out there that year. Like how to do certain moves, how to do the inputs, charge inputs, all that crap, how characters felt, because obviously Ryu in Street Fighter 5 is also going to be in Street Fighter 6. So I spent a lot of time with it for you and learned how to do a Shoryuken input after nearly probably 10 years of trying, which is pretty great. And with respect, I also think 20 of those hours was also trying to do a Shoryuken cancel into a super. For those that know, this is doing a Z input on the stick and then do a quarter circle, because the regular super input is double quarter circle, right? But technically the Z input counts as that. Anyways, I still can't really get it to this day. I don't know what goes through my head. I just cannot get it in time. Maybe it's because like the move itself is kind of fast. I don't know. Anyways, I ended up doing pretty much every single character's trials except a few, which honestly, I had a blast doing and completing. I did this in a lot of arcade mode, which has always just a great mode no matter what game it is. You know, doing the arcade mode, getting a little experience, get a little story. But, alright. Now we make it to Street Fighter 6 now after all that. I want to give you all this background just to show you how big of a game this was to me. I feel like males can relate that they find fighting games just too hard to get into, whether it be the inputs, the pace, or just opportunity. Like, we like fighting games, right? We love competing against people as just human beings in general. Like, even if it doesn't matter what kind of game it is, but it's like Fortnite or something, or just Smash Bros. We love to fight, win, and use our skill. But when it came to like actual fighting games, I feel like I and many others just look at it just like, yeah, I can't do it. I cannot overcome that skill barrier. But then I was like, you know what? I'm all of a sudden Street Fighter 5. I'm going to declare Street Fighter 6 as my first real fighting game. I consumed all the trailers, analyzed them in depth. It looked so much fun, but even better. And the greatest part was, it was insanely accessible. You can slow down combo trials. Basic combos just feel a lot more simpler. There's new powerful tools open up more cooler defensive options so you don't feel overwhelmed. Drive Impact is so much fun to use, especially most on a lower level play, especially get that prediction up. I played the character Marissa at launch and took her all the way to Platinum within a month. I pretty much just only play about 30 minutes a day for pretty much the whole summer. And it was definitely the highlight of my day. Coming home from work, booting up Street Fighter 6, then play just for a little bit, do a little bit of combo trials, get myself ready, and beat the crap out of people. It was great. And I also bought a flipping PS5 specifically to play Street Fighter 6. Because I've been using a PS4 controller for so long on Street Fighter 5 that I was like, alright, this is my controller. And it's great to finally have a fighting game that I can just make my own. A game I can fully understand, I can look at and analyze, and also share with people how accessible it is. I can't tell you how many times I've been able to just get someone into this game by showing them modern controls. Give them like modern Zangief for something like that. Some characters so simple, and the auto combos, all of that. It's just such... I think it's definitely like the blueprint for fighting games going forward, is making this game so accessible, doing all these things for combos, doing all those things for just getting in the game, having these two different game modes, you know. Modern controls does not overpower the classic controls, which is great. And it's just fantastic. Oh, and don't even forget, there's a freaking single player mode for people to learn how to play fighting games. It has tons of lore in it, tons of fun, its own unique story. It's just great. Just put that on top of this already beautiful package. Like, you don't even have to touch the single player mode. You can get so much out of like the multiplayer mode. So it's just a game made for just anybody. Chock full of content for anybody to enjoy. Like, I recommend that if you ever want to get to any kind of fighting game, just buy it. Like, you're gonna have a great time. And I think this is what all fighting games from now on should be compared to on accessibility level. And that definitely is why this is my game of the year.
Hey, thanks to anybody who watched all the way to the end. I really appreciate anybody who watches or even just clicks on my videos. I know this video is pretty late. I just been pushing it off for so long, and eventually I was just like, alright, I just gotta do it. Because sometimes you make stuff for yourself, not for anybody else. So I'm very glad I finally got this out, especially my thoughts on Street Fighter 6. I really want to just get that out there. Eventually I was actually planning a whole video, but that never happened, so here we are. Again, thanks for watching. I really appreciate all support, and please like and subscribe. I'll see you guys later.